Hello and welcome to another Inkscape tutorial. In this video I'll be showing you a few simple tricks to make drawing an octopus like this quick and easy. Stay tuned. Well, the first thing I'm going to do is get rid of the page border. So we're going to come up to our button at the top for document properties, click on that one. We can come down to the bottom and we can untick show page border. And we can get rid of that. I'm going to come over and open up our fill and stroke dialog box. And then I'm going to grab the Bezier tool, making sure that we're in the regular Bezier mode. Then to draw our tentacle, we can click at one end, we can drag out, click at the other end, and then hold down Control because I want the bottom of our tentacle to be horizontal. Click when we get to the end and we can just press Enter to finish it off. I'm going to come up and grab the Nodes tool, and then I'm just going to stretch this line over just so that end of our tentacle is round, and perhaps drag that down a touch. And that looks a fairly nice tentacle shape. Now I want to put some suckers on the bottom of this tentacle. So I'm going to grab the rectangle tool, just going to drag out a smallish rectangle, get the Nodes tool. Because this is a predefined shape, I need to convert it to a path before I can work on it. So I'm going to come up to Path, Object to Path. Now we can move our nodes about. If we zoom in a touch, we can just adjust these now. So I'm going to drag the middle up a little bit, and I'm going to drag these sides in a touch. I think that'll do. So if we zoom back out a bit, drag it over. So we want these suckers to go all the way along the bottom of our tentacle. So I'm going to bring this one, Control Z to undo that. I'll get my selection tool. We can move this over. I'm going to come over to snapping. I'm going to turn snapping on, and I want the second section enabled, and snapping to paths and snapping to cusp nodes. I should then be able to take this and snap it to the bottom of my tentacle. I'm then going to press Control D to duplicate. I'm going to take it away. I want to put it at this end now. So what I'm going to do is hold Control to constrain the proportions. I'm going to shrink it down to about that. I might just make it a little bit wider. Now if you notice, the stroke on my path isn't changing. That's because at the top here, in these different scaling options, I've turned off scaling stroke with path. So now we can take this one and we can snap it to our path up here, around about there. So now what I want to do is select both of the suckers. I'm going to hold down Shift, select the other sucker, and then I'm going to want to reproduce these suckers, gradually getting smaller along the bottom of our tentacle. So to do that, I'm going to come up to Extensions, down to Generate from Path, and down to Interpolate. If we move this over to one side, so we can see what we're doing. We'll leave the exponent at 0 at the moment. I've got interpolate steps 5. That'll do us for now, and interpolate method is set at 2. You can either have 1 or 2. I'm not 100% sure what the differences are, but we'll stick with 2. Next thing I want to do is click on Live Preview. And we've got a row of suckers along the bottom. Now because the centres of our suckers are evenly spaced, you'll notice they seem to be grouped together at this end and more spread out at this end. So what I want to do is just increase the exponent one step at a time and see how it looks. Perhaps once more. And I think I like that. So I'm going to stick with that there. So I'm going to press Apply to apply it. I then want to union all these sections together. So if we get rid of that, we can drag a box over the whole lot. All of the suckers that were created using Interpolate will be grouped together. So first thing we need to do is come up to the top and ungroup everything. We can then come over to Path, down to Union, and that creates our sucker shape. I'm going to create a piece on the bottom of our sucker that we will colour a different colour a little bit later on. So I'm going to grab the Bezier tool. I'm going to turn off snapping because snapping can be a pain when we don't want it. And then all I'm going to do is come along here and just create this overlapping shape like so. we'll colour that yellow. Now I want the intersection between this shape and this shape. So I'm going to get my selection tool. So to cut this out, I'm going to grab the original tentacle. I'm going to press Ctrl D to duplicate it. I'm then going to hold down Shift, select my yellow shape, and then I'm going to come up to Path, Intersection, which will cut it out to the shape of the intersection. So I'm going to grab my nodes tool and just adjust this slightly. I don't like that end very much. Cool. Let's Control Z to get rid of that. Just going to smooth this node, and we bring that down a touch. Bring this one down and this one down. We'll smooth that node as well because it's looking a little uneven. I think that'll do me. So I'm going to drag over both of these. They're both of them selected. I'm then going to come up to Path and I'm going to come down to Combine. This combines the two individual paths together. So they're still two subpaths, so we can separate them again at a later date. But for now, they're classed as one path. So next thing I want to do is draw where I want my tentacles to go. So I'm going to move down a touch. I'm going to start designing the tentacles of my octopus. So I'm going to come over, grab the Bezier tool, and instead of leaving it on regular mode, I'm going to change it to Spyro mode. And what this does is, as we click, when we click again, we kind of get this circular pattern, but it can be a bit unpredictable. So what you got to do is, when you get it to a position where you quite like the curve, click again, and you can carry on extending your path. So as we go round, we just click a few times to get the path we want. I don't want to fill colour in there, so I'm just going to come over and press the X. So that'll do for one tentacle. So I'm just going to continue on like this till I've created all the paths for my tentacles. Delete that one, have another go because I can't quite get that to do what I want. I'll do for that one. Hold my scroll wheel down just to move the whole canvas up. There's that one. That one. That one. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. One more. So I'll go here. There we go. So I'm going to grab my selection tool. I'm just going to realign these slightly. So one could do it being a bit bigger, couldn't it? So let's move it over. Grab our nodes tool. We'll just stretch that one out a bit more, like so. If we go back to the selection tool, I can just move it into position. Perhaps I'll get my selection tool. Looks a bit flat in the middle section there, doesn't it? Oh, that's not too bad. That'll do me. What I will do is slightly rotate it. This one I'm going to stretch out a little bit. This one can come down, sit behind that one a bit. So I think these are looking fairly good. So next thing I'm going to do is turn these into tentacles. So I'm going to come up, I'm going to select my path at the top, I'm going to right click on it, I'm going to press copy, then I'm going to select the first of the tentacles and I'm going to go to path and down to path effects. Oh, what I have forgotten to do, if you see here it says Spyro Spline. So what I need to do is convert these into paths. So I'm going to grab all of them. So we've selected all of them. We're just going to come up to path, object to path to convert these to paths. So now if we get our nodes tool, you'll see that these are standalone paths. They haven't got the Spyro Spline running around them now. So if we click off, we can deselect with our pattern copied. So now we can go to our first tentacle, select our first tentacle, we can add a path effect. We want pattern along path, so we click on that. Then we're going to take it from clipboard. So we click on select from clipboard. We can come up and grab our nodes tool and we can just adjust the width of this tentacle. So I think about there we're doing me. So to finalize it, we can go to path, object to path. Now we just keep doing this for each one. So the settings I've got in here, which I forgot to mention, is I've got single stretched. And that's basically it. So all we're doing is stretching a single copy of our shape along our line. Narrow our tentacle down, path, object to path, select the next one, pattern along path, and we just adjust these. Next one, actually path, object to path. So I want my suckers on the other side now, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select, grab the selection tool, I'm going to select our shape and I'm going to flip it vertically. Then I'm going to copy it, and hopefully now when we come back into our shapes, add path effect, pattern along path, now we've got our suckers on the other side of our design. Next one, select the next one, select our last one, grab our selection tool, drag over all of them. I'm going to go to path, break apart. So that should have broken them all apart into their individual sections. So what we should be able to do now is go around and colour these. So if we go round, hold down shift, I'm going to go around selecting the outside of each of the tentacles, and I'm going to colour that green. I'm going to go round and select the inside of each of the tentacles. Hold down shift. And we can colour these yellow. So we need to group these tentacles back together now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change back to my selection tool. I want to hold down Alt and just drag across the bits that I want to group together. And that, when we release, will select both of them. We can then come up and group them. So we can just go around doing this now. And last one. So now we've got our individual tentacles grouped back together. We can start making sure these are in the right places. So let's bring that one to the top. This one needs to come up. That one wants to go to the bottom. So all we're doing now is just adjusting these till we're happy with the way they look. Oh, wrong one. So I think I'm fairly happy with that. The next thing I want to do is draw the main head. So actually that one I'm going to bring down a little bit like so, and that one I'm going to drag over a bit to about there. So now we've got our tentacles where we want them. We need to select our Bezier tool. We need to make sure that we're back into regular mode, and then we can draw out the body of our octopus. Press enter there. I'm going to select back onto that one. I need to make sure the ends of all these tentacles are covered, so I'm going to come down, just make sure I cover all the ends so we've got a solid shape. I'm just going to adjust that, so I'm going to grab my nodes tool. I'm just going to come in, just play with the shape until I think it looks octopus-like. I think that looks fairly good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this. So first off, I'll turn this one green. I'm going to remove the stroke, so I'm going to hold down shift and click on the X. I'm then going to press Ctrl D to duplicate it. I'm going to remove the colour, but I'm going to hold down shift and give it a black stroke again. So now this one is just the stroke. So what I want to do is remove these sections at the bottom that are cutting across our tentacles. So with my nodes tool selected, I'm just going to drag over these bottom nodes. I'm going to click on delete segments between two non-end point nodes, and that remove the sections that we had in the way down there. We might have a little bit of adjustment to do down here, but he's looking like an octopus more now. So the next thing I want to do is put some eyes on. I'm going to draw our eyeballs. So I'm going to drag out an ellipse. I'm then going to drag out a smaller ellipse inside. Get my selection tool. I can move this one up a touch, like so. I'm going to colour it black. And that'll do me, so I can group those together. So I come up to the group them together, and press Ctrl D to duplicate, and we have two separate eyeballs. What we do need though is if we drag over both of them, ungroup, click off, select, hold down shift and select both these large circles, and then we can click on white down the bottom to fill them with white. So if we regroup them, that's 1, 2, are regrouped. Now if we bring them over, so with our selection tool selected, we can drag our eyes over and plonk them in place. So let's hold down Control, constrain the proportions, shrink it down a little bit, about that size. I want to get rid of this one because that's a different size. Then I'm going to hold on to this one, press Control D. I'm going to flip it horizontally, and we just move it over to wherever we want it over there. So I want to move them over a little bit, move them back a bit to about there. Now I'm going to get my Bezier tool, and we're just going to draw in. I need to remove the colour, so I can click on the X. So that's one. I'm going to draw in the other brow. Press enter. This time I want it to be coloured, so I'm going to colour the green, and that'll fill it in. I can drop that down below the eyeball so it sits on top like so. We can do some fine adjustment to these because they're not perfect. Here we have our eyes. Next thing we want to do is draw on a mouth. So what should we use for this? I think we just use the Bezier tool. So let's just draw him a mouth on. So I'm just going to click over, going to drag down, and then I'm going to link back on to the original shape. Now obviously this isn't how I want it, but if we go into our nodes tool, we can click on that one. I'm going to double click on the cusp node or corner node. Then we should be able to drag out our mouth till we can get the look that we want. Get there in a minute. See how that one looks? Almost. Let's grab the nodes tool again. I'm not quite happy with that. Oh, that'll do us. Now I'll grab the Bezier tool again. Little line across here, press enter, we zoom in a touch, I'm going to grab the nodes tool, and I'm going to just drag the centre of that out to give him a cheeky smile. So let's fill that in. I think he needs another little arch on the other side, doesn't he? This needs adjusting as well actually, so I just bring that over slightly. Just give him a little line on that side of the mouth as well, I think. See how it looks. So we'll just drag the centre out to give it a little bit of an arc like that. Seems like we've got fill colour, so I'm going to just click on the X so that we get that nice round line. This one just needs adjusting to line up with the line underneath, like so. And zoom out, see how it looks. So I'm just going to carry on adjusting things until I feel happy with them. It's actually the line underneath that I want to move. Zoom in so we can see what we're doing, I think. It's got our selection tool. Just going to rotate this slightly. Zoom out. Still seems very square on the end for some reason. Let's select this one and click no colour. Ah, there we go. That was the problem. We had green fill colour. So if we zoom back out a bit, we could actually give him a pink tongue or something, couldn't we, in there? So if we come up, grab the Bezier tool. So we have a tongue, turn it pink. Got our selection tool. I'm going to select the mouth behind, and I'm press Control D to duplicate, and I'll hold down Shift, select our tongue shape, and then we can come up to path and then down to intersection. We can create a tongue for him. So I think that looks fairly good. So I might just put some marks on his head, I think. So all I'm going to do is grab the ellipse tool, and we're just going to drag out some ellipses, or an ellipse, and then I'll duplicate it in a second. So we double click on that, perhaps shrink it down a bit, Control D, then I'm gonna, and we'll perhaps just have one more, Control D to duplicate again, hold down Shift, and I'm going to select all three, and I'm going to change that fill color to dark green. I think I might round his head a little bit more. So I'm going to grab the nodes tool. Because we've got multiple paths here, it might be a better idea to come in and get the tweak tool. So if we come down, grab the tweak tool, we want it set on push parts of path in any direction. So now I'm going to reduce down the width so we're a bit smaller. Actually a bit smaller than that. We need to select the bits that we want first. So I'm going to hold down Shift. I want this one and the path, and I think I'll go for these as well. Then I'm going to grab the tweak tool. I think that's slightly bigger, and I'm just going to drag that up a touch. Like so. Yeah, that's quite good. We just need to get rid of that line on the bottom again. So if we just might move that very slightly like that. Then I'm going to get my selection tool, deselect everything. I need to select just this path now. Then with the nodes tool, zoom in so we can see what we're doing. I need to drag over the top of these nodes. Then I'm going to come up and remove the sections like so. So now if we zoom out, get our selection tool, we have an octopus. We can remove our original shape. So with the selection tool, we can select that, press delete, and there we have our octopus. I hope you found that helpful. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.